Oh, I know the horse is showing big lick here, and the main thing, in case you don't know, a lot of these horses are bred very pacey, so when they have those packages on, they lift their feet up higher. But even though it looks like a running walk, it's actually a pace and a step pace because the legs are coming off the ground together, and then just because of the package, the legs are landing a little bit separately. Sorry about the video because I'm too close to the screen. So I would think just from seeing the horse here that it's going to be pretty pacey when it's loose. They're ridden with their head up so high, like it's kind of up to her head. That also makes it very pacey because then they're kind of hollowing out, coming the other direction. So see, the back leg is landing before the front, but it's the package that is keeping that horse's leg in the air. And due to that, it's also coming way down in its back end, and it's almost walking kind of on its fetlocks in the back. It's a little bit in the back end as it's going away, but not too bad compared to some of the ones I've seen. So here, now that the pads are off, he's still kind of step pacing here, and the head is still a little high because we need to get it way down just to help him to relax that neck and back, to help to separate those legs better because they're still moving a little bit too much together, more towards a pace. He's kind of step pacing there. So you'll see the back leg comes off just a second before the front leg, and then the back leg lands and then the front leg lands. But that's more of a step pace and not the correct flat walk or running walk. But that's normal for what I see with the ex-big leg horses. Now, it's good that you showed them loose. Or what I notice is the toes are still really long. I don't know if your trimmer could help you a little bit more, but the toes are still pretty long. The front feet look a little bit longer than the back feet. And then back here, he's coming way down into his pasterns, and it looks worse on the right versus the left. And he is starting to get straighter through that hock area. And that makes me worry a little bit more about his ligaments. So I don't know if you have a lameness specialist, but I would have them check and make sure he doesn't have DSLD. There are some things you can do to help, especially if he doesn't have it, but they might want to put shoes on, less toe, more heel, and then have the shoe come more out in the back to support him. There's splint boots. I'll send you a link to it. That can also help give some support back here. But if you watch how he's moving, he's kind of long in the pasterns all around. Down further than some horses do, but I think that long toe is making it worse. So I think you could make improvements there. But in the back end, you'll see how far they're coming down. That's a little bit too far. That makes me worried. And again, how straight he's going through the hock in that area when he's coming down. So I'm not a vet. I know a lot of orthopedic things, but I would have them check him just so we make sure we're not hurting him or making him do things that he can't do. He is still kind of pacing and step pacing in this video, and it looks like you got the surcingle on. I can see the surcingle, the side reins are a little bit too loose, so he's not bringing his head down. So he's still kind of inverted even though he has the correct equipment. He's going faster, but he's just going more towards a pace. We could get him a lot better. When he's going slower, it's not as bad. It's just he doesn't know anything different, so he thinks as soon as he speeds up, he's supposed to pace. And then what I would do in time, I'm not sure if you have my surcingle videos or not, but I would tighten these down more to help him to understand to bring his head down lower. If you were just starting with this, this was fine. But otherwise, I would start to put more pressure on the reins and teach him to bring his head down with this so he gets more correct form. But I think those toes are still too long, not much heel, and then not much support in that back end. So what I would do first is just talk to the vet. If you have a lameness specialist, I would check him and I would have him ultrasound the back legs to see if he has any signs of DSLD. And I can send you more information on that if you don't know what that is. Because we want to know if what we're going to do to try to make his gaits better is going to help him. We definitely don't want to hurt him, okay? And when they do the big lick, they have most of their weight on their back end, so they really do get down in their hind quarters and their hocks, and they're driving off that back end, but sometimes all that pressure is a little bit too much, and then it can cause some problems with their ligaments and suspensories. So get that checked first. Then I would talk with your shoer and see if they could bring the toes back and give them a little bit more heel. And if you can put shoes on, it'll give his pasterns more support, but your vet can explain that to you and they can make recommendations for specific shoes and talk with the farrier to try to keep him from coming down too far in his pasterns. Now, the other things I would teach him to try to help him with his gait is one, to put his head down. So I'd teach him lateral flexion and vertical flexion. And what we want to teach him is he's so used to going with his head way up here, so it's above the rider's head. We want to bring his head way down. So we want the top of his head kind of level with the top of the saddle. And we're trying to make it a little extreme for the moment until we get him out of pacing. And then we'll let him bring his head back up some. But right now he's too high-headed, and it's just going to make him pace more. So when you rode him in the other class, even though he doesn't have the pads on, he's not gaiting well because he's so used to that weight that the weight was separating his legs. So now he doesn't know what to do. So here his head isn't as high, but it's still too high since he's pacing. So what we want to do is try to bring the top of his head down here at least. So that would make his mouth kind of down here. So we want to do that by teaching him lateral flexion and then vertical flexion, and then working on circles and patterns and bending him and just teaching him to keep his head down. And I'll send you videos of that. It's easier to teach the vertical flexion in a snaffle if you have one, and then later on you can go back to the shank if you want, especially for trail riding. But it's easier to teach them the lateral flexion and vertical flexion with just a snaffle. So then I would work on circles and patterns and just practice in keeping his head down and just do a slow walk. You want to get that first before we try and go faster. And then I'll send you the arena routine as well. Then what I would do is practice his flat walk first. And I would do it in a circle with him bending and going over poles. Okay, you're going to set the poles up like a clock like you see in all my videos, because that will help to separate his legs. And in the beginning, I just want you to go 3 minutes each direction at the flat walk. Do that for a couple of weeks, and then go up to 5 minutes each direction at the flat walk, and then send me an updated video so I can see how he's doing. Once he can do that flat walk and he can do it well and keep his legs separated, then we can start adding on more time and then slowly adding more speed in. He's a beautiful horse. He does have talent. We just have to get him to relax his neck and his back. And by bringing his head down, that'll help us. And then getting him to drive up underneath himself with his back end, but not needing all that extra equipment to do it. So this is a new way for him to learn how to walk. So we want to do it slowly and want to do it correctly. So if we can get the flat walk set and well, it's very easy to get their running walk. And then once we get that set and it's good, then it's easy to get him to rack if you want him to rack as well. But we need to take the time to get him in the right body frame, get his neck and back relaxed, and separating those legs more. And the more we bend them and keep them in a circle and with those poles, that's going to make a huge difference with them. So I'm going to send you exercises to do, kind of a schedule of what you should do. And then if you have any questions, let me know.